Does your teenager make you feel like you just want to rip out your hair? That every time you tell them something, they're just not listening and they're just not getting it? So today I'm going to discuss 5 different areas that we can work with our teenagers to help them see their own success and make sure that we're not going to go crazy because of them. If you're new to the channel, my name is Bennett Schwartz and I'm a high performance coach, and I work with people both personally and professionally to make sure they're living the lives that they want to be living. If you're looking to live a richer life, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. Over the past decade, I've been working with hundreds of young adults, and I've seen certain patterns that really help people succeed in life and other ones that really just help them fail. And what's interesting is so many parents come over to me and ask me what they could do to help their children succeed. And I'm going to share 5 different areas that we can start to focus on in order to make sure our children succeed. And what's crazy is that if we could start helping them in this area, they're going to be doing the things that are going to help them move forward and not the things that are just going to get us frustrated. For the first tip, we're going to need to be able to support our children. We get so frustrated because our children are not doing the things that we want them to be doing or they should be doing. And even if it's because it's going to be better for them or because it's going to just be able to help them be more successful, they don't want to necessarily do those things. And what I tell parents in that case is we have to try to figure out what is it that our parents want to be doing in another specific area that's important to them. Because although maybe school's not necessarily important, but maybe sports is important. And if we could focus on that other area where they're going to have buy-in and help support them in that area, it's just going to overflow into the other areas that we want to really help them in. One of the things I discuss in my program to these young adults is that if we could start to get serious within our sports or in our schooling, it's going to help the other one as well. And as parents, if we could show our support and care, then we can be able to have that relationship and have that conversation with them. I heard a great line from a mentor of mine because there's so many times we have certain teachers or parents who don't really care about the interests of our children. So whether it's sports or whether it's certain gossip that's going on, we try to play cool and to really back off. If we can start to look to get into the topic that our children are into, what will happen is that we'll be able to have a connection with them. So even though I don't necessarily want to be watching kids' television shows, but I could start to relate to them in that way, I'm going to be able to have a conversation with them and then be able to take that and really translate that into other areas of our life. Our point is to have a relationship with our kids. So even if it's something we're not interested in, we have to sometimes be the adult, show our interest for their sake and be able to move it and translate it into other areas of our life. The second tip that we need to understand is that we might need to help them get the support that they need. So for example, if my son came over to me and said, "Dad, I want to be a professional golfer." So for me, I can get into the driving range and maybe teach him a thing or two, but I'm not going to be the person to really take him to the next level. And so many times as parents, we want to be there to help support our kids. And we want to be the biggest cheerleader for them, but we have to understand we have to be the cheerleader and not the actual coach. So many times I see parents trying to teach their kids certain things that they end up messing them up because they're teaching them the wrong ideas in order to become successful. And sometimes it's very hard because our egos get in the way, but if we can understand that we have certain skills that we can and should be teaching our kids, and then there are other people who might be better at that, that's going to be the thing that's going to be able to help them become more successful in the long run. When I used to coach high school basketball, it was always so frustrating to me when a parent would come over to their child at halftime and start to tell them to do certain things when really those things were detrimental to the whole game plan. Understanding that we all have the ability to help our children, and sometimes somebody else might be more equipped for that. So recognize what it is our children want to be working on, recognize what it is that we can help them at, and recognize who are the other people that we can start to bring into their lives to help them become more successful. It's why so many people refer people to our next gen program, because we are able to build the foundations for success and help them take it to the next level. Let's not let our egos get in the way. See what it is that we can do to help support them. Find that support and give it to them. All top athletes, all top business people have a support team around them. Who's going to be your child's support team around them in order to help them succeed and take it to the next level? The third idea is to understand that we need to try to train our children to have a growth mindset. Dr. Carol Dweck has this beautiful idea that we need to start understanding that we have the ability to constantly grow in our lives. And if we could start to praise the process as opposed to the result, then our children are going to be labeling themselves in a positive way as opposed to a negative way. So many times children tell themselves that they are a certain way. They're a math person, they're a basketball person, they're a people person. And there are other labels that they're putting on themselves that might be not so helpful. I'm a shy person, I'm an introvert, I'm somebody who doesn't take risks. And if we could start to understand when we're speaking to our children, when we praise them, we have to start to praise the process and not the result. then they'll be able to work on those specific muscles to become somebody, to label themselves as somebody who can get through and become successful. So when our child comes home with a 95 on their test, instead of saying, I'm so proud of you that you did so well on your test, we could start to tell them that I'm so proud of you that you studied so hard. I'm so proud of you that you worked hard in order to succeed. I'm so proud of you that the work ethic that you put in place really showed in this result of this test. Because if we're starting to praise the result, what's going to happen is that they're only going to be focusing on the result. And there's two detriments to really praising the result. Because when they start focusing only on the result, number one is if they don't get the result, they're going to beat themselves up. And we all know that sometimes the result is only based on the effort. The second idea is to realize that they're going to do whatever it is that they can to get that result. So if they have to cheat, kill, and steal, they're going to do whatever it is because they know they're only going to be praised on the result. So instead of labeling them on the result that they need to get, if we can label them in terms of what it is they need to become in order to get that result, then they're going to see that success later on. So building them up by being a patient person, a hardworking person, a disciplined person. These are just some of the tools that we can start to use to help really build up our children to see that success in the long term. The fourth idea is to understand that when our children do certain things, we have to wait to react. Because so many times when our kids do something, we have an initial reaction, and many times that initial reaction is really overboard. And if we can start to say, hey, you did something wrong, but I'm gonna wait to talk to you because I'm not really in the greatest state, what happens is that we could have that relationship, we could have that communication, and then later on we can actually come up with a punishment which might be able to actually fit the crime. So many times parents are just reacting to certain things and they say and do certain things. And the worst thing a parent can do is say one thing and then retract it because they might have reacted. But what's also detrimental is by saying something and it's actually too strict, and therefore they can't go back because then they look like a hypocrite, but then they have to go through it and really just gonna cause bigger problems later on. So recognizing that if we could just bite our tongue for a second, say, you know what, I'm not gonna make a decision right now. I'm gonna think about it. I'm gonna talk to mom, I'm gonna talk to dad, and we're gonna figure it out together to help and understand what it is we need to be doing to move forward. Then we can start to recognize that when things do happen in our lives, we don't have to react right away, and we could come up with a better game plan and make sure things are really happening in a positive way. When it comes to the fifth tip, we have to understand that we need to set up the right rules and boundaries. As humans, we love structure. And if we could come into a situation as a parent to say, hey, this is how we work, this is how things are done, and we can communicate that effectively with our children, they're going to have the right expectation. Because so many times our children might do something and we react a certain way because it's not the way we do things, but they just didn't really know. They might have saw their friends doing it in their homes. So recognizing that we have the ability to really communicate with our children, to put in a structure, to put in a framework, to help our tribe, our family, do the things that we need to be doing to become successful. And the earlier on we can implement it, then the better off they're going to be. So whether it's waking up and making our bed first thing in the morning, or whether it's them doing their own personal laundry, recognizing that if we can start to set up a structure in terms of how things work, and this is what you need to do to be the family, even if you don't necessarily give a reason, but you start to communicate with them, then they're gonna have the right expectations. So many arguments and disagreements fall through the cracks just because there's a lack of communication. Understand that if we could be close with our children, if we could start to have that communication and to really resonate with them what's going on and have them not be so surprised, we'll be able to really start to see the success for them. They will really buy into the family. We all want the best for our kids, and if we could start supporting them in terms of what it is that they need to do in order to move forward, then we can really start to see what it is that they can accomplish and really help them be more successful. And all of these ideas we spoke about are going to be there in order to be able to set the right expectations and to build that relationship. And what will happen is, yes, kids will mess up, but how quickly can we rebuild that relationship, build that bond, to build that trust, and make sure that they know we have their backs, and also realize that, you know what, you're gonna be fine, and as long as we keep communicating and tweaking it to get better, we're gonna be able to do the things that we want. Let me know what your biggest takeaway is down in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you enjoyed this type of content, make sure to take a look at our next video, which I really think you're gonna enjoy.